Hi everyone, my name is Adegbola Adedotun, and here we'll be talking about demand aggregation. Before we go into what aggregation entails, I would like to go through some concepts. Aggregation is referred to as the process of grouping items as whole. All this will be explained later in the as we go. Demand is a request for goods of commodity at a particular period of time. Aggregation point is where farmers get together and receive services or bring together their produce for sale. Logistics, the last, is the it entails all the activities involved in moving produce from one point of production to point of consumption. Um, as we all know that a very high percentage of smallholder farmers in Africa farm in fragments, which makes it difficult and less attractive to meet available large-scale demand. Firstly, I want to explain what demand is really, what it's, what is the concept. I would like to define it. So, in demand, there has to be a kind of interest, a show of interest for a particular product. As we define as when we began, it was explained that demand has to be at a particular period of time. Apart from the fact that there's an interest in place, it has to be specific to timing. So it has to be demand for a product at a particular period of time because things change. Uh, price, uh, price, and other factors are very variable. So it has to be an interest shown for a particular product at a specific time. That's what the concept demand means. So, demand aggregation, as we are examining today, it makes it possible for large scale demand to be met through bringing produce together from farmers of the same location to create a large and more consistent supply. So here we are talking about demand aggregation. It has to do with, okay, there's a demand for a particular product. So how can we achieve this large scale demand? It is by aggregating from smallholder farmers, from farmers that have fragments of this product and putting it together to a place so that it can meet a particular demand. So that's the concept of this demand aggregation. Um, we are going to be discussing forms of aggregation. What uh, needs to be aggregated? Number one is farmers. Farmers aggregation. We can aggregate farmers for a particular services, maybe for any services, maybe infrastructure services, services, input services. So maybe there's a particular new product that the producer needs some farmer to test out. So an agent can aggregate farmers to for that particular uh, product. So another is a produce aggregation, which we discussed earlier. Uh, maybe for instance, if there's a demand for grain, grain is a product. So a company needs a grain. A particular quantity will be demanded at a particular period, which will attract a specific price. So that is also a form of aggregation. The last is farm holding aggregation, whereby companies, institutions can come together that they want to work with farmers. So farmers have to work together. Their farm has to be at a particular location. That's what it means by farm holding aggregation. So the unique thing about this aggregation is that all this has to do with farmers working together as a unit. Uh, Purpose of aggregation. Um, Aggregation serves as a marketing channel for farmers and produce off-takers. So in aggregation, it benefits farmers and at the same time it benefits the off taker on the other hand. And how does this benefit farmers? Number one is to create a technical support for farmers. In aggregation, there's always a middle man in between the company and the farmers that gives farmers farm support, gives advice in terms of some technicalities in on their challenges they are experiencing on their farm. So two is it provides easy access to market. It provides pre-production planning to meet market specification. Like we discussed earlier, that demand always comes with their specification, uh, what they want, the kind of seed that is required, the kind of variety that is required. So this information will be given to farmers even before they plant, so that it can help in their planning process. Another is access to consistent supply of produce by off-taker, easy access to farmers for outgrower scheme. Here we'll be discussing about the model in demand aggregation. Here we have the off-taker, we have the agent that is a kind of interface between the off-taker and the smallholder farmer, and we have the smallholder farmer. So here I'll be discussing about how the process, the flow of process in this model. We have the off-taker that demand for a particular product, or off-taker that wants to offer a particular services to a group of farmers. We have the another agent of this demand aggregation model, which is the aggregator. So the aggregator serves as the connection between an off-taker and the small older farmer. And we have the small older farmer that does the farming and produce what the off-taker needs. So there's a chain of communication from the off-taker down to the aggregator. Likewise, whatever communication that the off-taker needs to get to the smallholder farmer, it gets it to them through this aggregator. Whenever the farmer produce their harvest their produce, they get it, they accrue it together with the agent, which is the aggregator. Then from there goes back to the off-taker. So here we are going to be talking about factors in aggregation. We have the logistics. For us, for an aggregation to be successful, all these factors has to be in place. The logistics, and those are one of the factors that are very important in aggregation. Farmers has to be in place. Produce, services, produce, demand. There has to be a demand for the product that the farmers are aggregating together. Aggregators, temporal storage for produce. Here we'll be talking about qualities of aggregator, of a good aggregator. Must be able to communicate in the language of the farmer. This is very essential because apart from the fact that the farmer must have a kind of social collateral, knowing the people, knowing what they plant, knowing how to get to them. So a good aggregator must know how to communicate in the farmer's language. So a good aggregator must possess an Android device, which will help in easy communication between the off-taker to the aggregator. So whenever maybe there's a kind of a new technology in place, the aggregator will be able to get the information on the Android phone and disseminate it to the farmer. So that is also important. So we are going to be discussing on the roles of an aggregator. Yeah, we have here get information on goods and services to farmers, act as intermediary between farmers and off-taker, bring together farmers to meet common goals and strive to maintain mutual relationship amongst them, collect and compile data from farmers, often work with farmer to provide on-farm technical support, and on like that. So requirements for aggregation points, because when you put together produce from different sources, there are, this requirement has to be met. One is it must be where it's accessible, where truck can come in and go out easily. So that's what it means, that it must be accessible. Two, it must have a shield protecting it from external factors like rain, generally weather. So another is shade also has to be, it has to be protected from rodents, and enclosed, secured from theft. So here, it's, we all understand why this concept is important in agriculture, because it plays a very vital role both for small scale farmers and the off-takers. Aggregation solves a lot of issues, helping to reduce the cost of transportation and storage. It helps in marketing of produce in a very collective manner. Thank you for your time.